Why is it that no one seems to respect you? That they are taking advantage of you, mistaking your kindness for weakness? Are you finding yourself trying to please other people, even at the cost of your own expense? Do you have low self esteem? Do you even know who you are? What's your identity? Maybe you even have a fear of rejection, a fear of being alone, but you find yourself rejected and unwanted, and you can't quite seem to understand why. But now you're seeing that you are rejecting yourself. You have self hatred. You don't understand what it means to love yourself. Let me ask yourself, are you a chameleon? What are your true colors? Are you finding yourself blending into every environment you're in, every group that you find yourself around? Well, maybe nobody respects you because you don't respect yourself. Have you thought about that before? What does that even mean? Because nobody really knows your heart. No one knows your true colors or what you stand for. They can't trust you because they don't know who you are. Do you know who you are? Maybe you're dealing with a lot of low self esteem right now. And maybe you're finding yourself being rejected by others or having a fear of rejection. Have you asked yourself, do you know who you even are? What is your identity? What are your true colors? Or are you a chameleon, blending in and changing with every different group that you find yourself in? See, maybe you don't have any self respect at the moment. And how can anyone respect you? How can anyone trust you if they don't even know who you are? If you don't even know who you are? You are afraid that people are rejecting you, or maybe you have some haters. And now maybe you hate yourself and you're trying to please people, but they're just taking advantage of you. So, how do we stop being a chameleon? Perhaps you're afraid of rejection because you haven't even accepted yourself. And you may have a lot of reasons that you don't like yourself, but because you're flawed and imperfect, that should never be a reason to not like yourself. We are all flawed. We are all broken. And that is what makes us beautiful. That's what makes us different individuals. We have different purpose, different characters. If you look at a book, at a story, the character, even the main character, is flawed. It's these broken stories that these characters have that gives you the cool story of their transformation. We work to improve, not to be perfect. Acceptance comes right now, not later when you're who you think you want to be, not when you've changed. Change, you have to accept who you are now. Self acceptance is now, with all the things you like and dislike about yourself. If you've never heard of the Japanese art called kintsugi, It is where they take broken pieces of like a vase and fill it with gold, so the cracks are all gold. And so even though this is a broken piece, it is now beautiful. And the broken parts, the cracks is what is the beautiful part about it. When I started this podcast, Garden Labyrinth, I was thinking about all the experiences that I had been through. That did not come from being perfect, and it didn't come from life being perfect and flawless. It came from my brokenness. It came from my experiences, my struggles. That is how we leave an impact on the world, is bringing our brokenness and our character to the storyline. So you have to accept yourself. People don't have to like you. It doesn't matter. You're still important. There's always a character in a story that you may not like, but they still are important to the storyline. And people don't always understand you, but you have to understand yourself. So, in order to be able to stop people pleasing, stop comparing yourself, stop hating yourself, it starts with a few things. First, you have to know your identity, know who you are, and accept that. Have self acceptance, have self understanding. Second, you have to know your purpose, find your purpose. And third, you have to cling to the truth. Fourth, don't be a chameleon. Do not change your colors for other people or for the world. And number five, the world will try to shape you how they want it to be, how they want you to be, and what they want you to do. Remember, you have to overcome self hatred with self love and self acceptance. Now, I'll go over those five things. First, knowing who you are, your identity. The reason this is so important is because this is your foundation. You have yourself. This is how you'll think. It'll determine your choices, your actions, and the reasons behind those. It will also shape how you appear to others. If you know yourself, then you can trust yourself and you can build confidence in yourself and what you know as well. You'll have confidence, and that confidence in yourself and what you know, then you will gain trust and respect from others because now they know who you are, what you're like, what you stand for. Number two, you won't get lost. If you don't know who you are, then you just try to be everything you think you need to be or want to be. You see something cool or someone cool and you try to be like that. You might not even know why. And it's probably going to be a trend or a phase that you're going to change again. And you'll end up disappointed because you're going to be trying to be something that's really not you. Maybe someone else can pull it off, but maybe that's not really you. That's not your personality. And this can often lead to you seeming kind of fake, or maybe you feel like you're living a lie because maybe others aren't happy with you, or you're not happy with yourself. And maybe you're just trying to people please, follow, because you don't know what direction to go. Like in Alice in Wonderland, she says, "Which way do I go?" to the Cheshire Cat. And he asks her, "Well, where are you trying to go?" because it just depends on where you're trying to go. And if you don't have a direction, if you don't know who you are, don't have that foundation, then you're going to be changing your colors all the time. You're gonna wander into different things. And I'm not saying like self-discovery, like you should have self-discovery. I'm not saying you shouldn't explore new things. Sure, absolutely. Especially if you're not sure who your what your real identity is. What do you stand for? Who are you? And if you're younger, this is a thing, we go through puberty and that's a big thing during puberty is trying to find out who we are. But if you're an adult already, it can still happen. If you're experience especially when you're young and you're experiencing like the real world, for the first time and just everything's crazy and where do you fit in, right? Is so you can wander in different directions, but you have to come back to something. You have to know what you want to be, who you want to be, what do you want to be like, what do you want to be doing with your life, like what is your purpose? That's what I mean by you don't want to wander just to follow whatever because if you don't stand for something, you will be deceived, you will be misled, you will be guided into areas you don't want to go, just be associated with people you don't want to be associated with, and it's just not not a good idea to be wandering aimlessly. And then the other thing is you'll get lost comparing yourself to others because you don't have a firm foundation on who you should be. The only person you need to compare yourself to is yourself. And when it comes to improving yourself, you need to know what goal are you trying to reach? Otherwise, if you're comparing yourself to others, you're going to be so disappointed because again, we are all different and we all have different reasons, different skills, different strengths and weaknesses, different experiences, different backgrounds, different purposes, different goals. You can't compare yourself to others, but you will if you don't have yourself to compare yourself to, if that makes sense. So don't be aiming at meaningless targets and standards. You're going to waste time. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be discouraged. And remember, judgments do not matter. They don't matter what people say about you because they don't know who you are. You know who you are. And the next one's pretty big because if you don't know yourself, meaning if you don't know your strengths and weaknesses, if you don't know your ups and downs, your inside and outside, then you will perceive yourself in a very skewed way. And the way that you think of yourself, the way that you treat yourself actually pours out onto other people around you. Not only that, but then you can also project your feelings onto other people and start believing that that's the way they think about you. Now, let me give you some examples of what I've just explained. So, first of all, let's say that you're full of this negative low self-esteem, negative self-thinking, okay? I am stupid and I can't seem to learn things like everyone else. Well, if you really think that about yourself, you're holding yourself back, first of all, from challenging yourself and believing in yourself to reach and improve, to reach a goal and improve yourself. If you already tell yourself you can't, then you won't be able to. You have to believe in yourself and give yourself chance, okay? But anyway, if you think that about yourself, you will also, without meaning to, treat other people that way. You will then be like, if somebody else can't catch on, like say you start giving yourself negative thoughts. Oh, I'm so dumb. I can't. Why am I so slow? Why can't I learn easily? If somebody else is struggling at something similar or whatever it is, you may find yourself subconsciously thinking that way about them. Like being impatient. Why is this person so hard to teach? Why can't they just catch on? It will reflect. And then the second part was that you will project, and if you think that you're dumb, you may just automatically believe other people think you're dumb too, when actually they really might not think that at all. But you will automatically project that this person must think I'm dumb too. They must see right through me. I'm dumb. And they probably think I'm stupid and unreliable. And then all of a sudden, you will be the first one to sever that trust because you already have this judgment and this belief that they think you're dumb and will never rely on you. Whether or not that's true, you're already assuming it is. You have to stop just doubting yourself and placing negative labels and believing negative thoughts, because otherwise, if you do that, you will sever and sabotage every relationship you have. You will do that by projecting, and you will hold yourself back from improving to be the person you want to be. Instead of thinking, I'm dumb and I can't do it, why don't you give yourself a chance? Why is this? Why is this hard for me to catch on to? Study yourself. Maybe study what you're trying to study. Maybe the material isn't the right. Maybe you're not a visual learner. Maybe you're hands on, right? When you start understanding how you work, then you can improve yourself. But you have to give yourself a chance and believe in yourself. And you have to give other people the benefit of the doubt and not project, because odds are they don't think that way. There's been many times I've done this and I've confessed it to the other person, and they have told me, actually, I was thinking the opposite. And it was almost hard for me to believe because I was the one actually believing a lie and subconsciously severing the trust for them before I thought they would do it themselves. So that's a big one, guys. The fourth one is kind of, ties into that believing in yourself and giving yourself the chance. You will have power and responsibility over your own life. If you know who you are, you know you can be capable of whatever you put your mind to. Now you have the responsibility. You don't have to worry about following a bad influence and being something you're not and blaming yourself when you now have responsibility to take control of yourself, take control of your life and your actions and your choices, and that power will give you what you want to run after, what you desire, what you want to be happy and successful. And not only that, but again, kind of tying back to believing in yourself and understanding yourself, you will now have grace with yourself. Instead of the negative thoughts, instead of the lies, you will now be able to forgive yourself, to be accepting, And that grace and that gentleness toward yourself will give you the power to change, to improve, to try again. And you must try again to succeed. Through failure, we learn. Failure leads to success, guys. So be graceful with yourself. And if you don't know your own identity, if you don't know who you are, you can start by listing out things that, kind of make you happy, things that you're interested in. Why are you interested in them? What are your beliefs? What are your morals? What are your values? What are your strengths, your weaknesses? What are your skills, talents, your hobbies? Why do you do those hobbies? What are your passions? What do you dream? If you could make your life perfect, like, a lot of people think, what would I retire like? What would my retirement look like? What do you spend your money on? What do you spend your time and energy doing? And why? Is that really what you want to do? And or what do you want to be like? What is it that you would rather like yourself to be like? And maybe who do you look at, celebrities at work, friends, who do you look at and think, I want that quality? Not to compare yourself, but just in general, like, yeah, they remind me of me if I was at my full potential. That is how you start self discovery. Start listing even the simplest things. What are your favorite colors and why? Maybe they make you feel, some kind of nostalgic, warm feeling. Maybe your favorite colors remind you of home. What are your favorite scents? Surround yourself with that. Really get in tune with who you are and what are your gifts? What do you find yourself doing a lot that people compliment you or thank you for? That's how you start your self discovery. And that's how you start building this foundation that you're going to stand on and look back to when you feel influenced to be different or to people please. This is also how you're going to start understanding what your purpose is. Now, here's the big key takeaway: your purpose isn't a selfish thing. A lot of times we have this idea that our purpose is supposed to be something that makes us happy or something that we want to do. And while, yes, it should be fulfilling and it should be, you should be joyful doing it. At the end of the day, though, your purpose is you being a piece of the bigger picture. It's not really about you. It's not about us. It's about your impact on others around you, your impression in this world. That's your purpose. So when you start finding out what you're good at, what you're skilled at, also think about how that affects other people. Look at again, look at some successful people. What were they raised doing what they're doing? Or did they actually stray off from their family's traditions and start doing something they wanted to do and became the best at that? You have to kind of envision yourself. Are you raised around a certain skill set, a business? Maybe your family owns a business or something. Maybe you're being raised to do that. Maybe it's something you actually love and you see how it's helpful to your community. Or maybe it's not quite what you want to do and it's not really what makes you happy. So maybe you need to try something different. And the other thing about looking at your purpose is that, again, with the self-acceptance, you you may compare yourself to other people and you may want to do something that you're not necessarily meant to do, and that's really hard to accept. I dealt with this personally. I love science. I really love it. In fact, I remember when I was in middle school, during lunch, I would go to the library and start reading boring. No, I'm just kidding. I would start reading the nonfiction and mostly like chemistry and geology books. I really love rocks and crystals, and I really love, chemical and the reactions and elements. I like all that stuff. And I remember when I was in middle school thinking, I really think this is cool. And I had just started learning about it too. So that's another reason I was just very interested. But I wasn't good in my class. I was not good in chemistry. And I never really was good at math. I'm one of those that's not math brained, but I have this respect and passion for science. And but I had to realize that it might not be what I was meant to do. Now, don't be deceived. I mean, when you have, because you may have these interests and passions, and there may be obstacles that you have to overcome. So I'm not saying to, hey, if this is just not easy or it's, you shouldn't do it. No, that's not what I'm saying. Like, there are plenty of successful people that had tons of obstacles. One of my favorite to mention is Olympia Lapointe. And if you don't know her, you should look her up. She did a TED Talk about her life, how she overcame fear. But there were so many obstacles keeping her from being a rocket scientist, but she did it. And so I'm not saying, hey, if something's not easy, obviously it's not meant to be. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But sometimes there are things though that you really aren't really meant to do. And sometimes you just have to accept that, and that comes with discernment, understanding, hey, this really is I love it. I love the subject, but it's not really my purpose. It's not really what I'm meant to do. It's not what fulfills me either. And so when you continue to realize what you're meant to do, it may come as a shock to you, honestly. No, I did not think that I would ever be on a podcast giving people insight into life or self discovery and overcoming emotional damage. I didn't think I would be doing that, but once I started it, I do feel fulfilled. I do really believe this is my purpose. And I believe as a Christian that God has a lot of work He wants to do through me, not just the podcast, but it's not something that I was going head first at. I was looking at other options. So think about that when you're looking into what your purpose is. It may come as a shock to you. When I was a kid, I actually, watched Tinker Bell, and I'm not kidding you, this stayed with me because it was such a good, lesson in this particular episode. She did not want to be a Tinker Bell. Basically, she didn't want to be a builder and a fixer-upper. She wanted to do everything else the other fairies were doing. Anything another fairy was. She wanted their talents. She didn't appreciate her gift. She did not accept herself and her gift. But she couldn't do the other things. And she kept getting disappointed. And finally, when she started accepting herself and realizing that what her gift and her talent, the good that came out of it, she started to appreciate it more. and it became fulfilling. So don't think that what you have to offer is meaningless because it's not. And even if it helps one person out there, that's what's important. That's what's important because every person is important. And whatever you have to offer is more valuable than you probably realize. All right, number 3, cling to the truth. Guys, this is probably just as important as number 1 because every foundation, but actually, think of the truth as the material that you build your foundation with, okay? Everybody will try to tear you down. That's just the world we live in. They may not even be meaning to. For example, you may have really good parents that are actually truly good and they love you and they really do care about you, but they really may not see eye to eye with you and they may tear down your dreams. It's just how it works. You need to understand and accept that people will not always like you. And a lot of the times, if not most, it is going to be the people around you or the people you grew up with, the people that are closest to you, that are going to be the first ones to doubt you and the first ones to throw shade at you. It's just how it is. Even the Bible says, even Jesus says that. So unfortunately, everyone's going to try and judge you. They may tell you things like you're not good enough. You're not good at that. That's not really you. You're too soft-spoken. That's not your nature. You just don't have it in you. You're not really changing. You're not improving. I don't see any change. You're doing it wrong. You are in the wrong body. Yeah, you might hear all those things. You might believe these things. You might start thinking they're right. And then your own thoughts and your own fears will tear you apart. Know the truth. Stop believing everything everyone tells you. And your thoughts is the scariest part because it's within yourself. And sometimes we can't tell the truth when we're in our own heads, but that's why we have to know the truth. You can't believe every thought, especially if it's negative. You have to ask yourself, why am I having this negative thought? Is this self-rejection? Is this self-doubt? Is this self-hatred? You have to guard your heart from their label, from people's labels, from their judgments. And ask yourself too, is this constructional criticism or is this just are they just, not seeing who I am and just, judging me for what they think? Now, again, they may not be trying to, not everybody is just evil and trying to be mean to you. Sometimes they'll come at it thinking they're trying to help you. For example, I am a very soft-spoken person, believe it or not. And therefore, when in a particular time in my work environment, I was trying to go after a sales role. Now, I had sales experience for a good while, and I was really good at building relationships with customers. The managers that I was talking to about moving into a sales-based role, they really didn't see that because they weren't working with me hands on. And so from my personality back then, I'm not saying I've grown a lot more confident than I was back then. So that is one thing. But what I started realizing was that this confidence that they kept telling me I needed wasn't that I didn't believe in myself, but it was more that I didn't appear to them that I believed in myself. And it was the way that I was talking, it was my demeanor. And that's why I say have knowing yourself, you can even appear to other people differently than you see yourself. And so it's important to know who you are and to really work on improving yourselves. I knew confidence in that aspect, not necessarily knowing myself and knowing the material I was presenting and working on. It was more a confidence of presenting. Now, how do I present that? I know it, but how do I present it to others? And so they didn't see me as a good, salesperson because they thought I was too soft spoken. So I realized finally that I needed to work on the way that I talked and the way that I presented. And so I took it as constructional criticism. But at the time, it was hard for me to really accept that because I knew I could be good at sales. And so I felt more like they were holding me back. So while they thought that they were trying to help me find a more long-term career by not getting to something they didn't think I would be able to stick with, it was more like, well, you're also judging from the little bit that you know me as. You haven't actually seen me on the floor working. So that's what I mean by you have to kind of really think and you have to validate what you're being told. Sometimes, they will just try to hold you back. Sometimes people let jealousy get the best of them and they will tell you really mean things, and you will have actual people that hate you because they don't understand you or they have a bad perception of what you represent. So that's the other thing that you have to understand, that people fear what they don't understand, and they are quick to, instead of trying to understand, are quick to judge. So if their opinions do not match with your identity, then forget it. It doesn't matter what they think. It really doesn't. And why are you letting it infect your thoughts? You need to hold yourself up. Do not let them tear your house down. Do your thoughts line up to who you are? If not, then change them. Change your thoughts. Again, going back to, hey, I think I'm dumb. That's not me. I don't believe that. I'm not going to say that. I just don't learn well with visual material. I'm not slow. I'm not dumb. I just learn differently. And that's okay. Maybe I'm slower than my teammate. That's okay too. We all learn at different paces, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that is the truth. I may not really like the fact that it's taking me longer, but I will be accepting of that and patient with myself, because knocking myself down about it isn't getting me anywhere anyway. So, find a source of truth and know it. Validate what people tell you. Discern if it's constructional criticism or just criticism and judgment. And do the same with your own thoughts. I like to use the Bible because, again, I'm Christian. I believe the Bible is the truth. And in every area that I've struggled or any lie I've faced, whether it was external or internal, I have found the truth in the Bible, and it has helped me to stay firm and overcome those lies and the discouragement. Do not allow yourself to be lied to and manipulated. You have to, along with accepting yourself, begin to embrace yourself. Embrace your spirit, your heart, embrace your mind. And guys, embrace your body. You are in the right body. You were born the perfectly the way you are, perfectly imperfect. You don't need to change. You don't need to mutilate yourselves inwardly, outwardly. You don't need to change yourself because you don't like yourself or someone doesn't like you. There's nothing wrong with you. You change yourself because you want to improve something about yourself. But you have to accept yourself where you are. Not reject your body, not reject your mind and your personality. Just embrace it. Embrace it. And let others judge. Give them something to look at. And number 4, don't change your colors, right? Do not be a chameleon, okay? You can't be wishy-washy. You can't be wishy-washy. You have a foundation now. You have a truth. And now you need to stand on that and not be pushed off. Do not be a pushover. Do not people please. Being open-minded is not the same as opening your mind. Opening your mind to, again, the lies or the hate that might come, the doubt. You can be open-minded. You know, if somebody, again, like constructional criticism and things, be open-minded. You know, maybe somebody sees something in you that you don't see yourself, but don't open your mind. Remember to guard your heart because it could be a stone being thrown at you to destroy you. Now, one of the things that was very eye-opening for me was polarization is good. Polarization scared me for a long time. And I honestly believe polarization has scared a lot of people. Because the thought of not being what everyone else wants you to be means rejection. And rejection means hate. And hate means loneliness. And loneliness is scary. None of us want to be alone. And none of us want to be wrong. We all want to be praised. We all want to be right about whatever it is. That's just human nature, and that's fine. But the reason why polarization is good, and when I mean polarization, it's either you're on one side, you stand for one thing, you know where you are, and you don't change and be wishy-washy based on someone else's opinion or certain circumstances. I mean, things aren't always black and white. Like, it really depends on what you're talking about, I guess. But in general, you can be you're at your pole, and you don't need to be at everybody else's. Polarization is good. If somebody does not like you or is throwing mean, words, is like targeting you, that person is probably toxic. And why are you betraying yourself to please that person? You don't need toxic people in your life. You don't need that. You need people that are encouraging. Now, you don't want to be surrounded by people that just say yes, yes, yes. I mean, again, constructional criticism is good. People can see things in us we don't see ourselves. And there is always room for improvement. But you don't need toxic people telling you that they don't like you and they don't, this and that. It's like, okay, maybe we're not friends. I don't really need that toxicity in my life, and I'm not going to betray myself for your approval. You know, it even comes to the world standards, because the world has standards that are most of the time really unrealistic. We kind of compare ourselves, or hold ourselves, or even like our children, for example, to certain standard. Oh, I'm not making straight A's in school. I must be dumb, and all this stuff. I mean, who made up those standards? Like, and have you noticed that they change according to like things like politics? I mean, take a deeper look at it. It really, and oh, let's not even get started on like women's magazines. I mean, that's the oldest one in the book, where they're airbrushed models, and we got these girls trying to look like the magazine picture, and if they don't, they think they're ugly. What? That standard is so unrealistic. It's false. It's not even a true image. And who the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Who's saying you're ugly? You're saying you're ugly, like, because somebody out there thinks you're actually beautiful, and you may not understand why, but it doesn't matter, because they think you're beautiful, because you are in your own way. You're not, you're not meant to live up to an unrealistic standard. I mean, yes, I think that it's like the Olympics, for example. If you're into sports, you should strive to get the gold medal. Absolutely. Why? Because you're doing something that is you. It's something that you love, and you are reaching for a goal that, again, that's improvement. And if you can reach that goal, then you have accomplished something that is extremely commendable. But again, if you don't reach the gold medal, does that make you worthless as a swimmer or whatever it is that you do? No. I mean, maybe to the world, but who cares about that? Don't get the gold medal because the world wants you to. Get the gold medal because you want to. That's what matters. And if you do your best, that's what matters. Stop trying to prove yourself to other people who don't understand who you are, who don't know what you've been through or what you're even sacrificing to do the things you do. Honestly, it takes one to know one. If they're judging you, it's probably because they have their own flaws. I mean, they do have their own flaws, but they probably have the same problem, or they have a problem in general, and they're just judging you for it. This is why you need to know what self-worth really means, and have understand self-worth, and know that you are you're priceless. Your value is not based on the success the world thinks is good enough. It is your own value and your own self-worth, not a trophy, not people's approvals, because you'll never please everyone. That's the other thing. You cannot please everyone. Even if you were perfect, you can't please everyone, because everybody has a different idea of what is right and what is acceptable. Do not mistake your own kindness, or no, do not mistake your own weakness for kindness. Okay? You might think you're being nice by trying to please everybody, But honestly, think about it. Are you serving others because you know it's right and because you want to? Or are you giving in to people because you actually weak? And that's not a derogative thing. It's just being honest with yourself. Do not be a weak person. Do not give in to people and let them abuse you, because here's the thing, if you let people, they will abuse you. They will use you and you will be disappointed because you were trying to gain an approval that they will never give you. You might even find yourself being wishy-washy and unloyal to yourself, but also to people that you love, because you don't have a root. You don't have that foundation. And if somebody's telling you to do something, that you might betray somebody you actually love and are good friends with for someone else that doesn't matter. A lot of people put their boss before their family. Don't be a coward, guys. Do not be a coward. Know when to stand up for yourself, for what's right. That's why polarization is good. The most successful people have haters, always. Probably the more successful you are, the more haters you have. So, being hated does not determine your worth of existing. Do not be defeated by hate, by others or by yourself. Whether people like you or not does not determine your worth and your purpose of existing. If you have people that actually respect you and love you, that's what we need. We need people who are true friends. True friends will tell you the truth. They will give you constructional criticism, but they will also encourage you and believe in you and not shoot you down. When you stand for what you believe, it won't even matter whether people respect you or accept you, because you don't care at this point, because you've already fulfilled that acceptance and respect, because you've already accepted yourself. You have self-respect, and that will show. And I'm telling you guys, that will either cause people to respect you, whether they like or dislike what you do, they'll respect you. Or if they don't, it's because they have their own issues, and that is the truth. That saying, hurt people, it's kind of a thing. If they're hurting you, most of the time, if you have a bully, they have an issue and they're lashing it out onto you. So you need to see right through that. There's nothing wrong with you. There's probably something wrong with them. It's not worth it to lose yourself to gain the world. You know, think about your favorite celebrities, okay? They have all the attention in the world until they disagree with something. And then all of a sudden, they just drop you. They just drop you. As if they never loved you in the first place. That worth, that worth that you're basing yourself on is fleeting. I mean, look at Taylor Swift. Honestly, I have to bring her up, honestly, because, right, her songs, she'll use the hate to become successful by putting it in a song, like Shake It Off, right? And then the other day, it's like everybody loves her. I mean, everyone loves her music. She's a great artist, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you bring something personal to the table, and she's suddenly being booed because, yeah, people don't agree with it. I don't care how perfect you think somebody is. I don't care how popular or successful you think someone is. There will always be someone who hates that person. And it's the same thing with you. Stop basing your success and your worth on people's approval because you will not have everyone's approval. And that's okay. In fact, if you have the more haters you have, you're probably doing something right. Because that's the other thing. I have learned that the sad truth is that the world likes to stomp out beautiful things. For some reason, they just need to kill a beautiful, good, precious thing. I don't that I kind of not sure, at least at the moment, why, but it's just that's what we do sometimes. We just, for some reason, just have to snuff out the light. I don't understand it, but that's what people do sometimes. And so it actually might be a good sign if you have haters that you're probably doing something good. When people don't like it or they're jealous or whatever, they will try to destroy that good person. And you can see that throughout history. Maybe because they don't have control over you anymore. Stop living a lie because it is harder to wear a mask than to be honest and be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. And number 5, the world will try to destroy you. We think that self-discovery starts mostly, puberty, teenage years, and it actually starts a lot sooner. And that's because subconsciously we're not really like, who am I? But we are being shaped by everybody around us. There's four things you need to keep in mind. That these 4 things shape our identity, our personality, even our attitudes. Our parents, our peers, the world, and then us, I guess, like our thoughts and our I like to call it, now I'll just call it the enemy, and I'll explain. But first of all, our parents. So, our parents are such an important part of our lives. And it's like there are so many people who struggle with this, trying to gain their parents' approval for everything. Well, I mean, it makes sense. Our parents raised us since knew nothing and could do nothing. So what we are raised around, what they bring around us, that's what we kind of learn is what's normal. If they, how they teach us how to do things or how to even talk, how to look at the world, what's acceptable, what is right, what's wrong, and what's normal. This creates our first perception of the world and our life. And so our minds, our brains, they're formed around these things. These become our memories, our likes, our dislikes, our desires, our dreams, or maybe even our careers, our skills, things like that. All these things kind of shape our personality. So naturally, it makes sense that we seek their approval. And the fear of being rejected means that we like what is life if we're not living it right? Now, this is again, our parents are supposed to be doing these things. They're supposed to shape us. They're supposed to teach us. But at some point, we have to become adults and become our own person because that's when we start our own life and our own family. So after you have become an adult, that's when the parent pleasing needs to stop. You should honor your parents. You should respect your parents, and until you're your own adult, you should obey your parents. But once you're your own person, your own adult, you need to you need to stop seeking their approval for everything. You are now at the age to make your own decisions, and whether those decisions are right or wrong, and whether they tell you, "Well, I was right, didn't I tell you?" You know what? We can learn from their mistakes, but we will make our own, and that's okay. In fact, we need to, because here's the other thing. As each generation grows and grows, times change, everything changes, the world changes, and that's something that our parents and when we're older and our children grow up, we may, not realize it, but everything changes over time. So the way that they used to do things may not be the most efficient way to do things now, and they may not understand that. So you have to know that, your reason for doing things the way you do them. A good parent will want what's best for you, but they can sometimes let their own personal experience blind them from your best interest. They want you to be safe and prosperous in a world that will destroy you. But at the same time, their control might try to destroy you as well. Again, I'm talking of after you're an adult. When you are an adult, you're your own person, you can make your own decisions. So, your self-worth doesn't come from your parents' approval. Parents naturally have expectations of their kids. That's just how we are, okay? But you what we have to understand as parents is we can't hold expectations their entire life. They really are their own person, and they have to grow up and be and do their live their life and learn. And if you're struggling with parent approval, you have to understand that about your own parents. That's going back to your responsibility and the power that you have now. You're responsible for your choices, and the strings of acceptable and rejection, they no longer hold you. So don't form your identity around your parents. Don't form your identity around theirs. I mean, you can take from that, like, say your dad's a fisherman and you grow up to be an amazing fisherman and make an entire business. That's totally cool. That was your decision, though. Make sure it's because you want to continue that amazing skill that he passed on to you, not because you feel like if you don't become a fisherman, you're going to be hated. Nobody wants to feel that loneliness, and I completely understand that. But you are your own person, and you must, even if they don't like what you've decided to do with your life, you must be true to yourself. Now, the next one is the world will try to destroy you. And we kind of touched on it, but let's look a little deeper. You are who you hang out with, and you become who you surround yourself with. It it's actually a fact. I mean, people's personalities, they actually rub off on you. Their attitudes, their mannerisms. If you hang around someone long enough, you can become that person. And that's kind of again where you can be a chameleon, starting to change your own colors into what you're surrounded by. It's natural. So that's why successful people, for example, Ty Lopez, encourage others to like be careful about who you hang out with and choose your friend circle. Um it kind of sounds it kind of sounds like, you know, I'm not saying you should never shun people, but you do need to be careful. There's a lot of times where we allow a toxic person into our life because we wanna be nice and, I'm not saying you need to never talk to somebody, I'm not saying that at all, but I do think it is because I have seen it in my first-handedly with a family member, actually 2 family members. Um, I have seen how I suddenly started saying things and speaking the way I did not like. That was not who I wanted to be. And I started really thinking about where I was getting this new like mindset and attitude, and I realized it was because I was spending a lot of time with someone who I didn't really want to be around because of that that mannerism was rubbing off on me, and I did not vibe with that. So, believe it or not, you can become somebody you don't wanna be by being around people you don't wanna be. So, be careful who you allow around you. Our peers, they not only influence us, but they pressure I mean, you've heard of peer pressure, and this can happen intentionally or actually unintentionally. Our friends I mean, yeah, when we're in school, we can have, like, peers that are like, "Yeah, I'm popular and I'm doing the trend that everyone's doing," and jump on the bandwagon, and they can be influencing because you know, that's what's cool, and I like that person, and that person's doing it, and I wanna be accepted by that person or noticed by that person. Okay, that influence is there, but that's even when we grow up into, like, everywhere, the workplace, and but then there's also pressure where, you have that person that's like, "Yeah, well, you wanna be like us, so you need to do this," or I mean, even in I mean, look I mean, let's bring up, yeah, that touchy subject of politics. I mean, there's certain ideals that are being pressured onto people that you may not agree with those things, and that's where the pressure comes from. Often when we're younger, we think about we wanna be cool, but even again, as we grow up, why do we not want to be rejected? I mean, we wanna feel important. We wanna feel part of something, and we have belonging. We want a place in this world with our people, and, we may just follow like lemmings just so we're not being picked on and pointed out and unwanted. But guys, think about where that bandwagon's heading. If everybody jumps, you've probably heard this. If everyone jumps off a cliff, are you going to follow with them? You have to really think about that. Where is it leading you? Sheep follow. Okay. You need to be your own leader and you need to look out for yourself because other people won't. They may not even know why they're doing a certain thing. Maybe they were just pressured into it or influenced. Again, knowing the truth, knowing the source of the source and the meaning of something like a movement or a trend or whatever, knowing the truth and the source of that is very important because that's what will you may be representing something you have no idea the actual meaning of it because everybody else is doing it. Be very careful, guys. Be very careful. The other thing is that we like competitiveness. And guys, there is such thing as healthy competition. Competition can be good because it sparks challenges, which sparks growth, which leads to success, and that leads to fulfillment. But when competitiveness turns into comparing yourself, that's where your self-worth becomes, it's dangerous. Your self-worth can be damaged. Your identity is not your best friend. You are yourself. And if you need to find belonging, you need to look for people like you. You need to go out and find a community that have your same mindset and beliefs and morals and values. Or make your own place. Be a leader and maybe make your own community. Don't pretend to be what everyone else is, because again, that worth is fleeting, that meaning is fleeting. You want to have meaningful existence. Guys, standing out is good. Otherwise, there's really nothing special about you than the guy next to you. Fear really is an enemy. Don't be afraid to break the mold. Don't be afraid to do something different. You're really not a slave, so don't let yourself be controlled, and you're not a puppet either. Don't let fear control you. A chameleon's defense mechanism is actually to blend into its environments, to pretend it's something that it's not. Don't let fear control you, and don't let money control you. Don't let people control you. They don't really understand what you need. So why would you leave your life in someone's hands, especially if it's people that don't really even know you very well? And then as far as money, like, a lot of people change themselves just for the sake of money. I mean, guys, having an abundance of wealth is nice, but what is the purpose? Again, are you doing it for your purpose or literally for the sake of having money? Riches can't buy happiness. It won't fulfill you. The love of money is the root of all evil. So don't give in to evil. Don't be controlled. And don't sabotage your own morals and value for money that burns, for people's approval that's fleeting. That's not where your self-worth should stand. And last but not least, the enemy, which can be even internally. You can be your own worst enemy. So you see, a house divided won't stand. And if you are against yourself, you will be defeated easily. When your thoughts, going back to the self-negative thoughts, that can be used against you. The best way to defeat an enemy is to have him turn on himself. So don't let yourself destroy your own self. You have your purpose in this world, but it can be snuffed out if you let yourself be defeated by hate and by lies, even within your own self. See, your worth and value, that doesn't come from the world's standard of what success is. We as humans are born the way that we are. We're meant to be loved with no strings attached. We're born with our own rights, our human rights, born with free will. And we are born in the image of God, which is good. Guys, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And just because other people don't appreciate us doesn't mean that that's not true. And that's why you have to appreciate yourself. You have to care for yourself first and not rely on other people to do so. When you start loving yourself, then other people will, again, they will respect and love you too. And if they don't, again, they have their own issues that they are working through. The the start of the end of division and hate is when we start to love ourselves and love others. We might become an unwanted person. We might be rejected sometimes. We can we will choose to do bad things. Sometimes we all make mistakes, but at the core, your worth, it's unmeasurable. It's unmeasurable by worldly standards. And we like to define people by what they do. We like to judge people by what they do, right? Somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're calling them names, but you don't even know. Like maybe they're being inconsiderate, but they might have like an emergency, and we like to just define it. Have you ever seen those stories where uh they come off as a really crass person, but then, maybe they've been abused and betrayed, and so it's not necessarily it's okay for them to be acting inconsiderately, but now you can understand, though, where they're coming from. So, I'm just using that as an example that is why we shouldn't care about how people judge us, because they really don't know where we come from, and they can't you can't be defined by people's beliefs. Why are you letting yourself be defined? You have to understand yourself and forgive yourself and be gracious in order to better yourself. Your value is not meant to be kept score on, and in order to change and improve back to the self-acceptance where you are. Self-love is not narcissistic, it's a survival. But unlike the chameleon, you're not a chameleon. You're a human being. And you know what? In order for you to survive, you don't need to lie about who you are. Instead, you need to show your true colors.